Hello, everyone. I'm Ichiro Jinnai, CEO of LiveBoard, the Japan's first 100% programmatic native OOH media owner. Today, I'm delighted to have DPAA Japan webinar, or in other words, finally, the Bali show is coming to Japan. Indeed, COVID-19 is a disaster for everybody. But at the same time, COVID-19 reveals the issues of OOH in the past age and brings creative distractions to transform the industry into a new world, such as programmatic OOH or data-driven OOH, based on 3A compliant media standards, accountable, addressable, and attributable. Today, we would like to define the power or superpower of OOH in the age of COVID-19 through the global and Japanese domestic case studies, followed by Bari-san's keynote. As a regular fan of the Bali show, I'm confident that the Bali show Japan also leads us to a new brightest OOH world. Please enjoy the show. Over to you, Bari-san.
Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Frey, CEO of DPAA, and I'm so excited and pleased to be here with you today. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Arigato toshimashita. What that video you just saw refers to is that you can't do omni-channel advertising and marketing without out-of-home. Out-of-home is a very significant part of brands and consumers' piece of the marketing world today, and increasingly growing. It's an omni-channel world for brands and consumers. Digital advertising, or DOOH, is now the major growth area of attention and focus for brands and advertisers. There's been a tremendous amount of innovation just in the past 2 or 3 years, which we're going to talk about today. Witness Dentsu is projecting significant double-digit increase for global ad spend of out-of-home advertising for 2021. In Dentsu's report for 2021, they speak of out-of-home advertising as the fastest rebounding media sector. And Dentsu says it's evolving quickly because of the offerings and many of the digital offerings that DPAA has been working to promote and build, as well as the demand by the advertising brand and agency communities. And even WPP and Group M is also looking at 18% global growth in 2021. This is due, as I mentioned earlier, to the embrace of out-of-home digitization. This is bringing many superpowers to out-of-home advertising and to brands. Screens are now everywhere on a consumer's daily journey. Let's take a look at that. Thank you for watching that. So DPAA is the Global Trade Marketing Association for all out-of-home advertising. And we spend a lot of time and effort connecting our global membership all over the world to embrace and develop the digital practices of our medium. Our membership goes from Times Square to Piccadilly Circus, and of course in Tokyo and throughout Japan, as you can see. We go from the upper left of Louisiana and Lamar advertising in America to all across the world in cinema, in taxis, in Ubers, in gyms, in restaurants, in bars, in train stations, in supermarkets. In addition, you see street corners and many other areas where these screens exist. To give you an idea of our ecosystem, we have found that with media owners and programmatic at our core, it's very important to have all of the hardware, the software, the real estate, the community, the technologies in our global community because everybody works together. We even have transportation systems, municipalities, mobile, and very importantly, we have location data and content companies. The content companies supply programming so consumers can see programming in addition to advertising. What we do with DPAA is we connect all of the best practices around the world from our over 170 member companies so they can all be their best by learning and basically connecting with each other. Because we're largely embracing the digitization of the medium, digital crosses borders very easily in terms of data, in terms of programmatic, and as I mentioned, overarching best practices. We develop these best practices based on advertiser demand, advertiser marketing interests. Here is our DPAA CEO Brand Council, where we work closely with major global brand decision makers to help them understand the digitization of out-of-home, and we understand what brand marketers want and need to sell their products, brands, and services. As you can see here, we have the Chief Brand Officer globally for Microsoft on our board. We have the head of all digital for Wella and Coty, the Chief Marketer Officer globally for Bose Corporation, auto companies, the head of global media for MasterCard, and many other products and lead decision makers that help us and our members guide and build their technologies, their services, and their offerings for the global advertising community. And to expand on that, we have met in this past year with over 100 C-level advertisers and ad agencies all over the world, from chief brand officers to chief marketing officers to CEOs of ad agencies. These meetings further inform us as to what the needs of the advertising community is globally, so our membership can build and provide them with great services. And then we work with our brand advisors as well as our members all over the world through an array of products that help all of our members get very smart as to what the advertisers want and what the latest in technology and best practices are. We have our big global summits, for instance, that Janae-san and his team come to every year. We have a women empowerment series that raises the level of women in our industry in terms of professional and personal development. We have our Short Connect series, where we interview brand leaders all over the world, where they talk about out-of-home advertising. In addition, we have our Connect series, where we meet with some of these brand leaders and our members get chances to ask great questions. In our Compendium series, we have the opportunity to display and build many data points that help everybody understand the value and principles. And then we have a whole other array of meetings and research and ways to share best practices so everybody can be the best they can be. Our town halls, for instance, we bring in advertising leaders, government leaders, and everybody that really helps our industry get very smart. So these are many of the products that we have, and all of these are available live and online and repeated online as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the digitization of out-of-home advertising and what it does for the global marketing community, as well as for our members around the world. Digitization out of home, especially in this past COVID year, has demonstrated a great agility of the medium and how we have also developed efficient systems and processes because of digitization. Digital data has been a powerhouse tool to understand and target audiences, to dynamically serve and demonstrate return on investment. And also, interestingly, we are not negatively affected like online digital media is by the decline of IDFA and cookies as Apple rolls out their new software. Of course, digital screens make for a much more powerful presentation of the content and advertising message, and also delivers great flexibility for video advertising. And then, of course, programmatic. This delivers the great value of digital advertising to the digital out-of-home screens. What's very exciting about digital out-of-home advertising today is where it has come to in terms of serving ads. In the old days, an ad would be on the side of the road or on a street corner or in a billboard for 3 months or 6 months. Now we can change that ad by the time, by temperature, by the news story, or even available audiences. So advertising is now triggered by location, by proximity. We can break it up into different day parts. Also, we can target audiences and audience behavior. And of course, once again, if we look back to the old days of out-of-home advertising, out-of-home has traditionally been very good at branding and awareness. Now, in addition to operating at the top of the marketing funnel for branding and awareness, because of digital data, because of digital targeting, because of retargeting and understanding traffic patterns, we are now delivering business opportunities right through the total marketing funnel. So as graphically pointed out here, branding, awareness, and reach is at the top of the funnel, and that's important to create a brand and awareness. Then you drill down and get to interest, consideration, and actually evaluating a product. And then the next step in this movement from branding and marketing to purchase is we can actually have and indicate site visits, store traffic, and purchases. So this is, once again, through the digitization of out-of-home advertising, we operate throughout the total marketing funnel. In addition, where many media today, ads are blocked or ads are skipped, or ads may not be viewable, or viewability may be counted if an ad is served on the web. This is much different than out-of-home advertising. There really is no ability to block the ads. Viewability is 100% the whole time. And then, as we see in other forms of digital advertising, bot fraud or online fraud is a consistent issue. These issues do not exist in the out-of-home digital advertising world. And of course, it is a tremendously brand safe environment. Brands are very happy to be in the environment of these screens. It's powerful and it is good for the brand. Let's speak for a moment about the past year and a half through this difficult time of COVID-19 and the pandemic. Once again, we see how the power of digital has enhanced out-of-home advertising even during this difficult time. So what has happened is the digitization of out-of-home has enabled screen deployment and targeting like never before. We also have been able to understand the addressability of the medium, to understand audiences, to target audiences, and then show attribution. And of course, programmatic has really been able to showcase the agility during this difficult time, where advertisers and agencies were able to pause schedules. Advertisers, agencies, and our programmatic partners have been able to move schedules to where audiences were. And it really showcased great agility during this time for out-of-home advertising. We have also spent much time, as you saw earlier, working with brands and agencies to work together to build digital out-of-home best practices and campaigns. In addition, we all work together as a global community to deliver public service, health, and even art messaging during this time. So our members all around the world, including LiveBoard, have been able to showcase us as a solid, trusted medium that is interested in consumers and the public. What this did, this enabled out-of-home advertising via these public service announcements and publicly interested campaigns to develop close and positive emotional bonds with consumers. Also, during the pandemic, we delivered messaging beyond the actual audience is in front of the screen. What this means is via social media and public dialogue and conversation, people were talking about our public service announcements. They were talking about the great public art that we put on the screens throughout the world. In addition, our industry made many investments this year in infrastructure, in connecting the pipes and integrating the platforms, especially building out the programmatic services. We also have worked very close with our membership, as now context is becoming more important, relatively speaking, in advertising than some of the cookie and IDFA identifiers. We care very much about privacy, and no PII is ever distributed. And of course, publishers ensured programmatic SSP connections, and we built these during the pandemic. So now we're ready to roll. To give you an idea of some of the public service messaging that we did during this, we built wearethecountervirus.com campaign. We built a website, and we had screens all over the world that led to this website, helping people understand how to act and behave during this difficult period. By cleaning your phone, by not touching your face, by keeping your distance and washing your hands. We ran this very early on in the pandemic to help the consuming populations around the world. We ran this in many languages. We had over 50 executions in 15 languages, and this ran in 10 countries around the world. Here's some examples. The upper left was in England, outside of London. On top, that was the upper right. On the left is Times Square and New York City. On the lower right are ride sharing in Las Vegas and Los Angeles. And lower left are great friends and company at LiveBoard ran these campaigns throughout Tokyo, in Japanese, of course. We did our share to help the population during COVID. And this endeared consumers and brands to these screens. So as mentioned, programmatic digital out-of-home showcased fluidity, flexibility, agility, and automation during this period, which will continue forward. In addition, as I mentioned, context and environments are becoming increasingly important as the IDFAs and the cookies become mitigated. And of course, programmatic digital out-of-home is a vital part of the programmatic strategy and the omni-channel strategy. Very data-focused and efficient. What all of programmatic digital out-of-home does, it also fosters outside-in advertising. This is where there may be a headquarters or lead executives of one company that sit in one country or city, but have a global marketing campaign. In fact, we did this at our DPAA board table, where Intel, Hivestack, and LiveBoard came together to develop an Intel campaign from Intel headquarters in the United States that ran all over the world, and especially in Japan. And here are the participants that are celebrating this outside-in advertising campaign. There's Janae-san, Andrea Soupliotis, and Maroon Isaac from Intel. Andreas is from Hivestack, and of course, Janae-san from LiveBoard, celebrating the first global outside-in digital out-of-home programmatic campaign, which was conceived at the DPAA board table. Programmatic has grown very aggressively in the United States in this past 2 years, and now this is coming all over the world. So I'll show you some of the US numbers. There has been a 43% growth from 19 to 23, from 2019 to 23. Programmatic will increasingly grow just as programmatic has grown in the digital advertising space. In addition, there will be more growth aggressively keeping on the same patterns, almost doubling in the following years. And we see, as everybody is now connecting around the world, this will happen in Japan and in all other countries as well. This is a campaign that we developed also during the pandemic to show that digital out-of-home has these tremendous agility and targeting and data superpowers. The idea is that people, as they're coming out, there's big, bright, sunlight, beautiful orange and yellow colors that showcase digital out-of-home advertising. This aired in trade magazines all over the world, as well as screens where advertisers and agencies exist. We also work with the LumaBank to develop the first global out-of-home Lumascape, where this is a very important document that all media has participated in. Check out Lumascapes, Google them very easily, and you'll see all media there. And DPAA built the first out-of-home Lumascape. Very easy to find from the LumaBank, and very well known. We have much research too that indicates the contextually relevant messaging and how important that is in out-of-home advertising. Ad recall is great in out-of-home advertising. The sales effect has a tremendous uplift for this medium. Also, this is a very trustworthy medium, as we've spoken about before. When you have an ad in public, there's a great degree of trust. More of this discussion, along with brand leaders, agency, thought, and business leaders, will occur in October of this year, 2021. Please join us. I encourage everybody to join us on October 12th in New York City. In New York City, on October 12th, will be the Global DPAA Summit. We expect over 1,000 people there. It'll be at a beautiful place on the Hudson River in New York City that's called Pier 60. We attract the leading marketers around the world to discuss their initiatives, their desires, and out-of-home advertising. To give you an idea of last year's people that we had as speakers, we had the CEO of LVMH, the global head of all global marketing for MasterCard, the CEO of Group M. We had people from CNN, the media hosts, leading agencies and advertisers, and there'll be more and some special treats this year. This is where we had it live 2 years ago before COVID, and we actually had a live Broadway cast performed for everybody. In addition, if you look center on the top, you see Janae-san listening intently, and LiveBoard has regularly attended the summit for many years and has been a presence on our global stage. In addition, you see Katoke-san, you see Ono-san, and then you also see, well, you may not be able to see Ito-san, who's kind of a little bit blocked, but it's a great event, and we're so happy that LiveBoard is there and on our stage with us every year for the past 5 years. We also had Sir Martin Sorrell on the upper right, and he has been part of our events and part of our interviews for many years. This is the man that built WPP. At this time, when he was on our stage, he had over 200,000 people working for him. He's very smart and he's very supportive of digital out-of-home advertising. This is our DPAA calendar of events for this year. And as a member, please join us. And if you're interested in membership, please contact me, Barry Frey. It's a great global community. This is me, Barry Frey. I can be reached at barry.frey@dpaaglobal.com. Arigato toshimashita. Next, we have Mr. Andrea Soupliotis from Hivestack, my friend and DPAA board member.
Thank you very much to Senden Kaigi for organizing this amazing Japanese marketing event. My name is Andrea Soupliotis, and I am the founder and CEO of Hivestack. I'd like to spend a short moment to tell you a little bit about us. Hivestack is a global programmatic digital out-of-home advertising technology platform. Our full stack platform has technology for both buyers and sellers. On the sell side, media owners use Hivestack to monetize their digital out-of-home screens programmatically via our SSP and ad exchange. On the buy side, digital marketers use our DSP to understand audience movement patterns to activate digital out-of-home screens in real time. Embedded into our DSP are powerful measurement dashboards that measure outcomes such as lift in awareness, consideration, intent, and in-store visitation. The platform analyzes anonymized mobile device IDs to understand how people move around in the physical world. Understanding the physical movement patterns of consumers allows marketers to activate screens that have a high propensity to overlap with prominent consumer journeys. Our consumer journey-based DSP can understand consumer movement patterns as people visit grocery stores, or on their way to work at an office tower, and even understand whether exposure to programmatic digital out-of-home drove a lift in in-store visitation. Data science, baked right into the platform, understands which devices have been observed in these physical environments and then guides our open RTV-based DSP. Hivestack has awesome scale, having delivered over 3,000 programmatic digital out-of-home campaigns since we started. We're trusted globally by the world's largest digital out-of-home publishers and agencies. Countries all over the world are using Hivestack to activate programmatic digital out-of-home. This includes countries like Mexico, Canada, Singapore, the United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, the USA, and of course, Japan. Our focus today is, of course, on how global marketers are using programmatic technology from outside of Japan to activate digital out-of-home screens inside of Japan. These are called outside-in buys. Programmatic digital out-of-home is made possible in Japan thanks to our core partner, LiveBoard. A joint venture between Docomo and Dentsu, LiveBoard is a true pioneer of programmatic digital out-of-home advertising. LiveBoard has white-labeled Hivestack's technology exclusively in Japan, creating a world's first programmatic digital out-of-home exchange. One of the most important aspects of LiveBoard is how it understands the real physical world. Anonymized NTT Docomo data is used to understand movement patterns, which is then fed into Hivestack to activate digital out-of-home at the best times and at the best screens, resulting in new revenue streams for Japanese media owners. Now, we all know that the pandemic has strained the advertising ecosystem. However, there have been pockets of gold from programmatic digital out of home during this challenging period? To illustrate these pockets of gold, I'd like to share with you today how three awesome brands, Intel, Mandarin Oriental, and Gucci, have used Hivestack and LiveBoard to activate programmatic digital out of home in Japan. Let's start with our first case study, Intel. In conjunction with Dentsu, Intel's agency of record, the Intel USA team leveraged the Hivestack DSP to activate digital out of home in Japan. This campaign, called the See It All campaign, targeted decision maker audiences, and the goal was to drive a lift in intent towards Intel platforms from these decision makers. The Intel team was very careful about the impact of the pandemic on out-of-home audiences and wanted to only start the campaign if there were enough audiences outside of their homes. Hivestack's COVID-19 Japanese dashboard was used to analyze optimal timing, and the campaign started successfully. Intel uploaded into the Hivestack DSP a list of Japanese healthcare, manufacturing, and retail businesses and conferences. These conferences were geofenced in the Hivestack DSP, and the platform was able to activate screens in Japan when it saw a large concentration of decision maker audiences. The activation and the pacing of the campaign were carefully monitored by Intel to ensure that audiences were successfully reached. These features and these capabilities have accelerated the adoption of programmatic digital out of home even during a pandemic. Self-serve activation, audience optimization, pacing adjustments, real-time impression monitoring are all DSP capabilities that give advertisers maximum flexibility during this challenging period. Now let's look at measurement for this campaign. Our partner, LifeSite, has an opt-in software developer kit that can see 20% of the smartphone population of Japan. We leveraged their device graph to map Apple IDFAs and Android IDs to Trade Desk Unified IDs and Xander IDs, which we then passed to Intel's B2B intent measurement partner, Bombora. Bombora is able to compare interest and intent from decision makers towards Intel platforms, from the exposed group to the control group. The results were very encouraging. Overall, we saw an 8.8% lift in Bombora surge score towards Intel platforms when devices were exposed to programmatic digital out-of-home activations. Bombora surge is a metric that measures whether interest is spiking towards specific topics from Bobora's extensive taxonomy. I'd like to summarize this campaign with a quick sizzle reel video.
Japan is the third largest out-of-home market in the world. The opportunity for brands to engage with Japanese audiences is massive. This year, Intel partnered with LiveBoard and Hivestack to activate their first outside-in buy in Japan. Intel's See It All campaign leveraged Hivestack's programmatic technology to deliver on the 3A's approach to digital out-of-home. LiveBoard's integration with Hivestack's DSP provided Intel unprecedented targeting, which drove intent among key decision makers, making it a resounding success.
Now, I would like to show you how a luxury hotel group, the Mandarin Oriental, used programmatic digital out-of-home to reach audiences in Japan. Mandarin Oriental is a brand that has partnered with the Spark Foundry. Spark Foundry is a global media agency within the Publicis Group. They have the spirit of a startup with the soul of a powerhouse. Spark Foundry is an agency known for bringing heat in a constructive way to brands. What you're seeing here is the Hivestack DSP in action. A brand awareness line item was configured in the DSP to target impressions throughout the Tokyo area. There were multiple creatives on this buy, with the theme focus on personalizing how famous global celebrities are fans of the Mandarin Oriental experience. The Hivestack DSP helps programmatic buyers stay in full control of the campaign, offering near real-time reporting. The Mandarin Oriental was able to visualize which screens in Tokyo were activated and how audiences evolved. The timeline shows a geotemporal appreciation on how impressions were delivered throughout Tokyo in space and time. And colored heat can be used to visualize impression density at the screens. The buyer can further drill in the DSP to understand which screens were activated over time and appreciate how many impressions were delivered. Moreover, the buyer can also view an aggregated impression count per screen to understand which screens are driving reach more than others. One of the most important aspects of Hivestack and LiveBoard's relationship is the capability to offer advertisers the ability to activate screens that over-index against audiences. This heat map can be used to visualize nearby competitive luxury hotels in Tokyo and understand the proximity of digital out-of-home activation. These programmatic storytelling tools are first-class citizens for Hivestack's buyers and has been the driving force behind programmatic activations even during a coronavirus period. Here's an example of the Gucci activation actually near LiveBoard's office in Tokyo. This campaign was completely executed from the United Kingdom, with the agency logging in to the Hivestack DSP, enabling a true outside-in activation. Now on to the third and final case study, which comes from the luxury brand that Japanese consumers love, Gucci. The Gucci activation was commandeered by one of our global buy-side partners, Flux. Flux is an exciting global outdoor advertising agency that combines brand insight with environmental triggers to create truly agile advertising campaigns in the real physical world. The Gucci campaign was a global campaign that ran in several countries and multiple continents. It ran in Italy, Singapore, the United Kingdom, the United States, and of course, Japan. Flux ran this global campaign centrally from the UK. What you're seeing here, yet again, is the Hivestack DSP in action. This campaign had multiple line items with multiple creatives. The Hivestack DSP makes it very easy for buyers to set up creative targeting goals alongside impression goals. Whether the creative is associated directly to a line item or using dynamic creative optimization coming from a buy-side ad server, all of it can be managed in the Hivestack DSP. A timeline view reveals the geotemporal activation of LiveBoard digital out-of-home screens in Japan, with the height of these poles showing the number of impressions exposed to the screens, while the heat map visualizes impression density achieved by the activation. Here's the Gucci creative in the up-and-coming Ikebukuro area, a commercial and entertainment district that houses the infamous Tokyo Metropolitan Theater. And here in Omotesando, a beautiful fashion-dense neighborhood in Tokyo. It is a major luxury shopping destination, and so creative delivery to this area makes so much sense for Gucci. Naturally, the Gucci creative was also activated in Shibuya, famous for its bustling streets and for the world's busiest intersection. Being a world-famous commercial and financial center in Tokyo, Shibuya houses the busiest railway stations in the world, Shinjuku Station and Shibuya Station. These strategic exposure points were very important to Gucci's activation strategy, which drove awareness across the luxury seekers. This concludes the 3 case studies from Intel, Mandarin Oriental, and Gucci, all of which activated programmatic digital out-of-home via the Hivestack DSP to LiveBoard screens and the SSP. Coming very soon, LiveBoard screens will also have the ability to be activated via global omni-channel DSPs, such as the Trade Desk. Stay tuned for news from both Hivestack and LiveBoard on that growing relationship. In addition to global omni-channel DSPs, it's also worthwhile mentioning that domestic Japanese DSPs are integrated and actively being used to buy LiveBoard inventory. These DSPs include Logicado, Market One, and Porto. As a final note to my presentation, I'd also like to share that Hivestack recently launched our Japanese website. We're expanding in Japan and are actively hiring a Japanese marketing manager in Tokyo. The job posting is on our website. Please feel free to connect with us. Thank you for taking your time to hear about how programmatic digital out-of-home is being used by brands and marketers globally to drive results in a pandemic era. I now turn it back to the organizers of the Senden Kaigi conference, but not before leaving you with a sizzle reel on Hivestack.
Brands, agencies, media owners, and omni-channel DSPs use the Hivestack platform to activate programmatic digital out-of-home with precision. Globally, custom audience targeting, unprecedented measurement capabilities, drive real-world business outcomes. The future is pink. Join us.
Thank you for your time. Arigato gozaimasu.